Yo, hey, oh, hey, hey, everybody.
Wow.
Oh, man, we lost it already.
We're already fucking this up.
Oh, man, hold on. Can you hear me, Marcus?
I can hear you.
What the heck is going on here?
I don't know. But honestly, it's an improvement.
You think so?
I do.
Hey, you can't see me. I'm like John Cena right now. But this is Dominic
You are
DeAngelo.
nothing like John Cena. I'm sure that Nesh is upset to hear you even compare yourself.
It's a fact. That's the issue here, man. What the heck happened here?
Well, in any case, Dom, you figured out.
Yes.
Hey guys, we are two Dynamite dudes on a rampage. I'm Marcus DeAngelo. The person that you thankfully cannot see is Dominic DeAngelo, my slapdick brother who works for WrestleZone.com. We are covering all things Dynamite and Rampage this week. Alonzo, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us. And nothing Dominic is doing is working here, but let's hammer on.
Yeah. Hold on, Marcus. I'm going to exit and enter the room again.
All right, I'm just going to stay here and keep talking to people.
Keep chatting away.
Big week for AEW. Man, it was quite something to see. I think that obviously the first thing that everybody's going to want to talk about this week is going to be Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. I would say probably next up is going to wind up being CM Punk. And there he is, and Powerhouse Hobbs. But I think we've got a lot to discuss this week, and I'm really excited to see where we go here. Dom, I can see your stupid face.
My handsome look. You shaved because you just knew that I just am more manly than you. That's what it boils down to.
Good mug though, Dom. Good mug in your hand.
Why? Thank you. Yes,
absolutely. For possibly the greatest wrestling podcast there is today.
There is. I tell you what, it is quite the fine show.
I'll tell you what, dude. The most recent episode, if you guys aren't listening to My World, the most recent episode is something to hear.
What is it? Plug? Give it a little plug.
Yeah, the most recent episode is the Monday Night Impact. So it was actually voted on. And everybody decided that's one that they wanted to hear. All the listeners did. And it is a tremendous episode where Jeff Jarrett goes into the story behind the story of what happened when he brought Hulk Hogan in and they decided to go on Mondays.
That was the same night Bret Hart showed up in WWE, correct?
The same night. It was January 4th, 2010.
Wow. And I remember watching.
Me too. Yes. So it's really cool to hear, as Jeff always says, the story behind the story. So check it out. Check out everything on adfreeshows.com. Those guys are incredible. So
get your shit in.
I gotta get my shit in. I guess we can let the cat out of the bag. I work for Ad Free Shows now as well. So I'm doing this, and I'm with Ad Free Shows too. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's cool to work with so many talented people over there.
Yeah, Mark, I don't know if you're really you should be considered like a top guy or anything like that either. Like you just...
I mean, I am. So the top guys are the most, the biggest tier for adfreeshows.com, Dominic. So no, I'm technically not a top guy.
Yeah, but by the definition, you don't fit that mold of a top guy, essentially.
You're just trying to hurt feelings at this point. I'm just going to hammer on.
Maybe a top bitch.
Guys, let's talk about Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega to open up Dynamite this week. And Dominic, let's start by just before we even get into the match. Holy shit, that crowd reaction.
Yes, my goodness. I was seeing comparisons to Hulk Hogan and The Rock at WrestleMania 18. That crowd was electric, man. Real electric. And
dude, how about Daniel Bryan just having fun for the first time probably in years in a wrestling ring?
I don't know. He has a pretty good time in wrestling.
No, but I mean that look on his face, like that incredibly genuine smile, and then they panned over to Kenny, and you could see Kenny doing everything he could not to smile. Yeah. It was something else, man.
It was neat because the crowd was cheering, and Daniel Bryan acknowledged it and was smiling about it. But then the crowd cheered again, it was that intense that there was that much buzz going around.
And then the lockup, they cheered when they locked up. And even JR commented, he was like, they're cheering for the lockup.
Yeah, they're cheering for the lockup. Yeah.
I mean, it's, as a wrestling fan, that's really all you could want. And you can just, with WCW, it was, I wouldn't call it a gradual change or a flip of wrestling audience where more people just suddenly started watching WCW. I wouldn't call it gradual, but I don't think it was this immediate either.
No, it's a little bit. It's got a little bit of a spike, doesn't it? Like in regards to what WWE is putting on with Raw, and then people transitioning over from Raw to that audience is getting pretty damn close numbers to what we got on Dynamite. So,
right. So I mean, it's incredible to see the wrestling business start to take, like, it's happening again. Like you can really feel it starting to seeing the wrestling business taking an upswing again. And it's a really fun time to be watching it.
It's a very fun time. What epitomized that better than that opening match?
Yeah, my goodness, Dom, let's get into it. What did you think of the match? Let's hear it all.
Man, I mean, I watched it twice, so live when it was going on, and then I went back the next day and watched it again because I was just like, I want to see it, and it was what a story told, and those guys are great, man. It was such a great match, and it's between that and the lights out match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker for match of the year for me. And you could flip a coin on that one because it's just both had stakes, and this one was just that big event feel. And I might give the edge just a little bit to this match because it was such a big environment on a big stage and everything like that. So, but holy smokes, man! I loved it. I love the aspect of now kicking it off. How would you have kicked it off with that, or would you waited and would you build it till the very end of the show?
And initially I was like, you wait until the end of the show, make people hang in and sample everything else that they have to offer. However, with the way that it went, and this irreplaceable reaction, I see the value in that as well, because if you think about it, let's say that you're a casual fan and you're like, okay, well, Daniel Bryan's going to be on this, I'll tune in tonight. You tune in and you see how absolutely bonkers electric the crowd is and what a good match those two had. I think that afterwards, going through all those emotions, the whirlwind of wrestling fandom there, when the dust settled and they're moving on to the next match, wouldn't you kind of be like, I want to see what else this company's doing?
Yeah, it's true, but it's also if you popped it off with I'm trying to think not that the title match should have went first, the women's title, but I'm just using this as an example. Is if you kicked it off with that, and then you still had that, you still kicked it off with a big enough match, and then you capped it off at the end with that match. I don't know if the crowd would have lost its zing, to be honest, because you got to think too. Right after that, they taped Rampage, so and the crowd was still electric for that. So I don't know. I guess you couldn't really go wrong in either way. But hell, it paid off because look at that environment it created.
It's about as good as you can get as in pro wrestling, is that sort of reaction, that kind of buzz. And AEW's gotten it a few times already this year.
Yeah.
CM Punk, now this. I want to say that the lights out match that you referenced got a similar reaction to this. Holy smokes, we're witnessing something incredible reaction. So yeah, it's AEW's. Hats off, they're nailing it. Dominic Rich is saying, so this eventually leads to a no limit title match. What do you think, Dom? You agree?
Yeah, it could. It could also lead to I would love to see an Iron Man match between those two, right?
That's honestly when it's funny you should say that, because 30 minutes had elapsed in the match. I want to say it was 8:32 or something. And I was looking at the clock and I was like, I wonder if these two are going to go Broadway, just do a full 1 hour match. I was like, I wouldn't hate it. And I don't think the crowd would hate it. The fact that they were still whipped into a frenzy, it speaks volumes. So yeah, I would love to see something like an Iron Man match.
Yeah, and the story that they told too, you think about it, and this took me through the second watch to kind of realize that was what they were saying, and then listening to commentary too. I think JR mentioned it, or maybe it was Excalibur, but either way, the bell rings, they're still slugging it out, and then eventually they're basically still having the match after the bell rings, and Daniel Bryan locks in the bell lock, and Excalibur hints later on, hey, he would have beat him that way, I think if the match carried on, Bryan Danielson would have won. So it's like that was kind of the story they were playing into. It'll be interesting to see how they follow up with that next week on Dynamite.
Nesher, we see your comments, and actually, I was going to say that your previous comment was the nicest thing you've ever said to me. I don't look like Dominic.
How dare you? Nesher, yeah, you're still on Facebook. No, so StreamYard, the site here we use to stream this thing, they got rid of the Twitter on here, like the Periscope, because I guess Periscope's dead. It's no longer exists or something. And so there is a way to link Twitter on there via video. We just haven't done it yet. So we're on Twitch. Bit, what's up, man? How are you?
Bit, thanks for joining us. Thank you to all you guys for joining us. DJ, I see you're back. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we're Rick. Obviously, we're happy to have everybody in here, and fire away with questions. We'll get to them when we can. We'll try to keep this thing at something like an hour.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, well, I guess so, huh?
I'm a busy man, Dominic. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about this opener, or shall we move along?
I'm just excited to see where it goes and how it stands, because I think, we're gonna probably see this at Full Gear, like the rematch.
In theory,
yeah, that's what I would kind of think.
Probably title on the line.
And then I think Daniel Bryan gets it. All right.
Gotta be. It has to be. I mean, the reaction he's getting, yeah. Jeez. I think it's the only way. Mm-hmm. All right, Dominic. Let's talk about MJF taking on Brian Pillman Jr. up and comer. How did you feel about that match?
I thought it was a good match. It was a good follow up too, because I was talking to one buddy about it. It's like you had all the action that Danielson and Omega had in that baby, and then this was kind of like a different paced match, but it still created enough buzz to keep the crowd engaged. And you had MJF doing his like pure heel route with the great baby face that Brian Pillman Jr. is with Julia Hart now, and I thought it was a great follow up to the match. It was a good way to structure the card. Like, if you're gonna open the match with Danielson and Omega, this was a good follow up, and it wasn't like it was like filler match. It was like a good match to continue and build it, get MJF a win back, put Brian Pillman Jr. on a bigger stage and put the spotlight on him. And I'm intrigued to see what they're gonna do with MJF coming up. What's next for him?
It was kind of the only thing that could happen in that match, right? It's Brian Pillman Jr. Yes, he's awesome. And yes, I think that he's got a really bright future in pro wrestling. But MJF is the unquestioned top heel in AEW, maybe the top heel in wrestling today. I don't know for sure, but certainly in the running.
His parents even hate him. Did you see that?
What's that?
His parents even hate him. Do you see?
I did see that. Yeah. That's just saying that stuff with MJF's parents was funny. Oh, yeah. And it was funny. So it's really cool to see his character develop and stuff. So it was the only option he had to go over, especially after taking the fall to Jericho most recently. So yeah, I was fine with it. I thought it went well. It was a good match. I would call it like a solid B+ of a match.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Certainly nothing wrong with it. Both guys are great workers.
I love Brian's Cincinnati Bengals attire. I think he should really roll with that anytime he has a singles match going on.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. And I believe his dad used to wear that too back in the day, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dominic Bitt has asked, what was your guys' favorite match of Rampage last night? Do we want to get into some of the Rampage stuff, or do you want to kind of go chronologically through Dynamite first?
What's you're hosting, man? What's easier for you? I mean,
let's just talk about it. So really, I mean, is there anything other than CM Punk and Will Hobbs? I mean, yes, there was a big debut there in the finish, which was cool. But I mean, really, it's to me, it starts and stops with CM Punk and Will Hobbs. Will Hobbs, as you and I have said many times, really big up and comer, awesome worker, awesome look. And then you got CM Punk, who's probably the hottest wrestling star on the face of the planet right now. So, yeah, it was awesome. Good match. Got a little stiff at times. I think that there were a couple of missed spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't detract from the match. Both guys look great. Cool finish. Smart finish, with hook up on the apron, and CM Punk kind of dodges Will Hobbs trying to attack him from behind and wins the match. But it was just, I thought it was cool, and it was fun. It was exciting.
It was fun. It was, and that was a good way to kick off Rampage too. Is that match is to have like Punk come out and like keep the crowd cooking. And I think Cobbs did great stuff with like a presence and body language and facials and everything like that. And then Punk was great too with Hook. Like when Hook first tried to meddle in the business.
Yeah.
Okay, when Hook first tried to meddle in the business, I liked how Punk just like did the hook with his mouth. I thought that was pretty funny and nice little touch that he added to it. But yeah, I thought, sure, there was some stuff that maybe, was a little stilted or, they didn't line up quite right. Like the Frankensteiner spot was a little scary for Hobbs. When it looked like he was going to powerbomb Punk and then Punk flipped him to do the Frankensteiner, and like Hobbs almost landed on his head kind of thing.
I think he did land on his head.
Yeah,
so that was one of the missed spots. It looked like when he did that cross body, that kind of running.
Yeah, it was almost
body
like
on the Punk,
a body tackle almost kind of thing.
Well, he caught him on the face, and I think that's where Punk got some juice.
Okay.
Yeah, because when he connected, you could see Punk laying on the mat, saying something to him. Hopefully, he wasn't being mean. Probably just like, "Hey, man, watch it," But I think it was just some off timing, but still, I mean, like I said, didn't detract from the match. It just looked like they were working stiff, so to speak. It was a fun match. So that to me, that was the highlight of Rampage. Would you agree with that, Dom?
I would agree with that, especially from this. I mean, obviously it's Punk's first televised match in 7 years. So anything
a pretty big deal.
Pretty big deal. And anything with Punk in it right now is a big deal. So I would say that. I know we're kind of venturing off course, but I really did but from like a match overall standpoint, like how they executed it and stuff, that 4-man tag was really good with the Lucha Brothers. She's Santana Ortiz against the Hardy Family Office. Those guys all worked really well together. So
they do. And the other thing I wanted to mention from the event was, and honestly, this is pretty much all I have to say about the event. I guess we need to talk about the main event, though.
Yeah.
But aside from that, let's just touch on this real quick. Penelope Ford, Anna Jay looked tremendous.
Yeah, that was great.
Awesome. Penelope Ford, I've said many times, I think she's a really big rising star in pro wrestling. I think that she's got everything you want in a pro wrestler. I think she's awesome. So it's bright future there, bright future for Anna Jay. What else? So the Elite taking on Jurassic Express and Christian. The Super Click, rather, taking on Jurassic Express and Christian. I thought it was a good match.
Mm-hmm.
And so at first I'm watching, so before I even got to watch the match, I saw a highlight where like Luchasaurus is doing like this front flip, and then some Adam Cole tries to kick him in the face, and he like leans out of it, and then he does like some crazy kick action with stuff, and then a choke slam onto another guy.
Yeah,
you remember that spot?
Cool, yeah.
So when I first saw the clip, I was like, yeah, big guy doing little guy things. But then I watched the full match and watched it happen. I was like, that was actually pretty incredible timing, the whole thing.
It was very well.
Yeah, so it's I'm gonna go out on a limb here, Dom. I think that Luchasaurus is improving.
Yeah.
I think, that being said, I would still prefer to see him work like a big guy, but his timing on stuff is starting to kind of really click.
He's got a wrestling buddy now too. Did you notice that?
I did, yes. And to my understanding, Dominic, I think he's like the John Cena of AEW, and that all the young kids like him.
Yeah, well, how wouldn't you? It's a dinosaur that wrestles. So.
Yes, he's a pretty unique character.
Yeah. No, Marcus, I think this might be kind of like a broad question to wait for you, but what do you think? What does Adam Cole give like help with the Young Bucks? Do you notice kind of like a kind of a more of a, I don't know, it's just more of a, how to say, I guess like a charisma. It's added charisma, right? Like, I mean, that's obvious because Cole's charismatic, but I mean, it just seems like it elevates them too,
I think, it's funny you should put it that way, because you kind of verbalized something that I hadn't really put into words in my head yet. But yes, so here's the deal: is that the Young Bucks were like these baby faces, like super, albeit annoying, but they were super baby faces for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then it's like it was one episode of Dynamite just like flipped the switch, and all of a sudden they're these like cocky douchebags who are like wearing asshole clothes and super expensive shoes. Whereas Adam Cole comes in and it's like, oh, okay, this is Adam Cole from WWE. And it's like he thinks he's better than everybody. He's like kind of bullying Tony Schiavone. And he's like he's that smarmy douche right out of the gate. So it's like Adam Cole is there's more of a genuineness to him than there is to the Young Bucks, because the Young Bucks just like flipped a switch and they're like, okay, now we're bad guys. Whereas like Adam Cole is like, I'm an asshole and I'm from New York and I'm better than everybody here. He's got like that sort of a vibe. So
he's not from New York, Marcus.
Well, he came from New York, Dominic.
Okay. You're trying to sound fancy with the old fucking
you're the worst,
voice
Dom.
terminology. I get it.
He came from up north, Dom.
Yeah.
From Connecticut. Is that better?
Now that you're riding with that free shows here, you feel like you use all the boys' dialogue and all that malarkey.
Well, in any case, Adam Cole, I think that he gives them some credence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's yeah, I like it. It's like it enhances their assholeness like even more so. And I think the Super Click's gonna really even catch more fire. I just got that feeling about it. It's gonna get kind of big with it, I think. So
that's just saying that she doesn't like Adam Cole. I don't know. I like him right out of the gate because of what he brings to the table. He's different. He's different than a lot of the talent on the roster, in that like there's just not a lot of guys there who can deliver a strong asshole promo, who have a good look like he does, and who have the working ability that he's got. He checks kind of all the boxes. And then to kind of top it off, it's like, one of the top female heel is his legitimate spouse. So like they're both like girlfriend, but it's like they're both like attractive people, and that makes them kind of unlikable. So it's really fun. It's an entertaining thing to watch week after week.
And Nesha, I think you would like Adam Cole if you watched his Twitch channel. He loves his fans. It's great. So you're on Twitch. I would watch Adam Cole's Twitch. He's the Chubs, I think, on there, or the Chugs. So
the Chugs.
Young Bucks, I like their style actually this week, Nesha. I thought it was pretty good.
I like their style in that they need a stylist. Like, like they dress like idiots, and it works.
It works. It totally works.
Right. They're doing what they should be doing.
Now what? Okay, so Adam Cole versus Jungle Boy next week. That's gonna be pretty darn good, right?
How could it not be? You've got these two incredible talents. I also like the tease at the start of the match where Christian and Adam Cole are getting ready to lock up, and Adam Cole immediately tags out, where it's like, okay, I want to see this. Christian and Adam Cole, cool. Old, IC champion, like, Christian for peeps sort of vibe. And this Adam Cole Bebe character. I'm like, all right, let's see these two lock up. And then they deprive us of it. I'm like, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Classic stuff there. I like
stuff.
Mm-hmm. What's next for Christian Cage, Mark?
Good question. I don't know. I know that he's working Impact, correct?
He's the Impact World Champ. He's facing who I said they should team up is Josh Alexander at Bound for Glory. So that'll be a good match. I kind of curious where he will fit in the equation coming up, though, after because I'm thinking like Josh Alexander will beat him for the title at Bound for Glory. But I don't know where they're going to keep him in the lay of the land of AEW. Like I know there's definitely space for him, and you can definitely use him somewhere. But I'm curious where they're going to put. I'd like to see him maybe go up like Ricky Starks, Christian Cage, Ricky Starks. That'd be pretty damn cool.
No, that would be an awesome feud. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of directions you can move in with Christian. I think you need to keep him strong because he's a really, really good worker. So I think that he needs to continually go over, and then have him put somebody over where it means something. What might really be cool is him and MJF.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think it could be a really fun program.
That'd be pretty cool. You almost want to see MJF go in the route where he's wrestling another current day talent, because it was neat to see him, just really cut some fresh teeth against Brian Pillman Jr. And I don't know. I would like to see him go up against another like hot, like name, like kind of thing that's kind of catching a little bit of fire too. Who that is, I'm not too sure yet. But
I see your point, but my counter to that would be that I think that this could kind of be Christian Cage's thing, or rather MJF's thing, where like he's sort of like, okay, so you're the established star, I'm gonna beat you, I'll make you tap out, which he's done with Jericho. I wouldn't mind seeing him do it with Christian. I wouldn't mind seeing him drop a couple to Christian before then Christian putting him over either. So
I don't want to see MJF lose too much anymore.
I don't think it would hurt him. And not to a guy like Christian. You could even have it be like Christian just kind of out wrestles him, beats him with a schoolboy or a roll up or something.
He could, like Christian could always kind of have his number, but I almost want to see like MJF like not get pinned or submit. Like I think you got to keep him pretty hot and keep him like as credible as you can. Marcus? Yeah, Adam Cole's song is pretty sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cool song. You can see why it's kind of a chart topper, as DJ pointed out. Josh, what's up, man? Hello, thanks for joining us. Thank you to all of you guys. Nesha likes Christian as Impact champ, and I don't hate it, Dom. I wouldn't mind seeing him continue to be the Impact champ and kind of bounce back and forth.
Well, yeah, but Mark, who showed up on Impact Wrestling but Christopher Daniels?
Did he?
I meant to send you that video he did. Right after Dynamite got done airing, he did like a vignette video that was really, really good, and like kind of like narrated his like story of like how he like lost his team and like, put his backups against the wall kind of thing. And he just kind of made the return as the fallen angel, so it was very neat to see. And he showed up on Impact this past Thursday to close out the show. So obviously Daniels is pretty damn synonymous with Impact TNA. So I thought that was such a neat thing to do. And if he's like going to be, I don't mind Impact putting him in the focal point too, like against a new champion too, like Josh Alexander. Like I think Christian beating Kenny for that title makes perfect sense. He's got the lineage of being an Impact in TNA. And then like him to transition that belt over to Josh Alexander makes a lot of sense. And then you get him cooked. You still keep Alexander cooking with somebody like a Daniels in a program with Daniels.
If you're going to bring back Christopher Daniels, I think the only way to do it is Fallen Angel gimmick. Mm-hmm. I don't like the Christopher Daniels coming out like singing into a microphone or whatever shtick he was doing there for a while.
It's clearly, if you saw Impact, it's clearly overdone with like that kind of thing. He comes out like kind of like how I'm doing with the hamburger meat showing. He's got like a button up, like a white button up, and just like slacks on. So he's definitely new look kind of Daniels and stuff.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Yeah. I like Christopher Daniels a lot too, Nesha. I think he's awesome. So.
All right, Dominic, let's touch on Nesha's other question here before we move on to what the other results. Will Sammy beat Miro? This is the question that's been bothering me, Dom. Is Sammy the one to finally put a stop to Miro's reign of terror in AEW? You know how I feel, so I'm asking how you feel.
That's what I'm trying to think, man. Like, will he? I think he will. I'm kind of with you where I don't think he should, but like that's just my personal preference, I think, at the moment. Because I mean, like, I don't think it does either damage if Sammy wins. Like, and I think it benefits. I don't think it's a win-win, basically. I think. Yeah, I don't think you can lose in any decision you make with this, because they're both big stars that you're both established. Miro's already like established. He's bona fide badass ass kicker. So I mean, if you can carry that on, and obviously you can build that to somebody else if you'd like. But Sammy could totally beat him, and Miro wouldn't lose anything, and Sammy would gain something. So you have your options are there. I don't think it necessarily matters too much. I think if I had to make it, if you're putting me like to the test here and having me make a decision, I would say Sammy beats Miro.
So, in my opinion, Miro does lose something when he loses. I mean, obviously, there's a storyline. He's losing, and he's losing like the belt. But I think worse than any of that is he's losing the momentum he's gained to this point.
How?
Because all of a sudden this unstoppable force has been stopped, and that's the end of the storyline. Whereas, hang on. Whereas what should be the storyline is that this unstoppable force has the TNT title, and now he wants to gather another title. And I'm not saying this has to be in the immediate future. I'm saying this could be a year down the road, longer. Where it's like, okay, this dude is unstoppable, and now he wants a piece of, let's say, babyface Bryan Danielson, AEW World Heavyweight Champion. To me, it writes itself. You can't go wrong either way then, because if Bryan Danielson beats him, it's like, okay, well, that makes sense, and now Bryan Danielson is a double champion. If Miro beats Bryan Danielson, all of a sudden you've got the strap on this basically a brand new Bill Goldberg character, and then you can have a tournament for the TNT title.
Okay, I see that, but also isn't basically the point of a secondary title like the TNT title, aka akin to like the Intercontinental title, something to showcase a star that you're building towards? You're gonna build, so you have Miro have that belt, and he's got it, so he can lose it to build to a bigger programmer to go on to another title. Whereas Miro's doing the same for somebody else, like a Sammy Guevara or whoever they do decide to choose to get put over by there. So if Miro carries that title to go to another title, yeah, you're building Miro, but it's also like you can still build Miro without it. I don't think he loses anything, Marcus. Obviously he loses the match. But will he lose?
Here's the deal, though. To me, it's the right move is to have him carry that TNT title until he wins the AEW championship. I think that's the right move, and here's why: is because then once he loses the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, he can go back to whoever the TNT title holder is and say, "I was never beaten for that title. I had to relinquish it because I became the other champion. So that belt should be mine."
Again, but that's to my point too. Is like, you can do either or. I don't think you're going to lose either way. Like, because you could make a great story like that you just presented there, but you can also still do a different story and make it very good and don't lose that lot of heat with Miro, just moving him on to something else as well. Now, but I am like with you in regards to like, I want to see Miro hold on to that title for a while still. So,
I think it's just better storytelling. Dominic, we've got a couple people here, Nesha and DJ. They're saying that Miro should go after Kenny's World Heavyweight Championship and beat Kenny. It's problematic to me because they're both heels. I don't think it would work. In storyline, I don't think it should work. But that being said, once Bryan Danielson inevitably beats Kenny Omega for the championship, I think we're on that course. I think it's going to happen. Once it does happen, I think then you have Miro maybe start to come after him. And I'm not saying right away, let Bryan Danielson get a bunch of wins. But then like once they're both kind of like red hot and like, okay, these guys haven't been beaten. Nobody can beat them. Now they're interested in each other. Could be fun.
Could be pretty neat.
DJ saying Miro could maybe go babyface, and that I don't know if I can get behind that either. I mean, this whole like Redeemer gimmick of his, it's unique. We haven't seen anything like it, where it's like he's kind of a man of God, but it's like he believes that he's like working in God's will, even though like he's not doing moral things.
And he's like he's pious, but he's not like, what's the term for that when you're like fake pious? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like it's disingenuous almost, because like he's acting pious, but he's still saying like this like kind of like sleazy stuff about his wife and certain things in the same like,
right. So it's like in the same breath as saying that he's going to redeem people, he's kind of like being a sleazeball. It's, I don't know, we haven't seen a character like that. That's what makes him so fun and so unique, and that's what's going to set him, like I keep doing the Goldberg comparison week after week, but that's what's going to set him apart and maybe make him better than Goldberg. Is that like, okay, this guy can cut a great promo, he's got a fun, interesting heel gimmick that we haven't seen before, and he's this big brute who nobody can stop. Like I see money, I really do.
I mean, I think you're there, so it's gonna be there. Like, I don't think they're going to lose any heat if he does lose the title. I mean, do I want to see him kind of keep the title? Yeah, I think I do. Yeah. Yeah, I just think if anybody was to beat him, that I would be like, all right, I'm for this happening to further a story. It would have been Eddie pulling like an upset on him at Grand Slam this week. But since that didn't happen, I kind of want to see Miro just keep going, keep chugging along. So,
all right. Well, Dominic, let's you and I keep chugging along.
Hey.
Let's talk about Malachi Black and Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
So a lot of anticipation. I think that all of us kind of thought, this certainly as just like taking it at face value as fans. Like, oh, Cody Rhodes is coming back. Malachi Black is like kind of beating everybody. It makes sense. Cody Rhodes should go over, but it makes even more sense to do what they did, which is have like almost like a Mick Rocky situation between Arn Anderson and Cody Rhodes. Dom, did you hear any of the stuff with Arn Anderson on? It was either yesterday or Thursday. I can't remember, but he was on Busted Open Radio.
I didn't hear. I saw a brief quote of it, but I didn't see too much. Please, Marcus, this is your platform. Go ahead.
Well, in a nutshell, he said something to the effect of, when you try to wear too many hats, you wind up dropping all of them. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that Cody's a little too focused on like Hollywood. So it's very Rocky and Mick in Rocky 3, where he's saying like, hey, you're a little too swept up in this all the extracurriculars. You're not like the savage that you used to be when you'd step into the ring with people.
And like a robot cleaning your house. Now
you got a robot cleaning your house, and Paulie's living with you for some reason. So yeah, it's, to me, it works. It's the perfect storyline to tell. So now you have Cody. I wouldn't even hate if they did some workout vignettes. Now you've got him on this Rocky. Now you've got him on this Rocky got beat by Clubber Lang trajectory, and who's a better Clubber Lang than the guy who hates Rosario Dawson,
right? I enjoyed Brandy sitting cross-legged from him and flipping him off. I thought that was kind of a neat moment.
DJ saying, what do you think of Cody Rhodes being booed? I think it works, right? Because Cody Rhodes is all Hollywood now.
I think Cody's working a lot of people right now. Like, everybody's like, oh, Cody's just so into himself and everything like that. And they're saying, like, he does not want to, like, he just... thinks he's the ultimate baby face. I think he's kind of working you, everybody. Like, I don't think it's like unintentional or he's oblivious to it. I think he's very well aware of what's going on.
Now, here's the other question, Dominic, and this is something that just occurred to me. Here's the other route that you could take, is that like Arn is saying that he's not being aggressive enough. Maybe Dominic starts to tell him he needs to be more like a horseman. We've got Tully Blanchard and FTR, who we're getting ready to talk about here in a minute. We've got Arn Anderson, Cody Rhodes with his bleach blonde hair, by the way. We've got a free agent, Ric Flair, who in all likelihood is going to wind up in AEW at some point. Could this be the route they're taking?
I don't think so. I think maybe the more likely route that they would take is Cody turning on Arn and then like having a full-blown heel turn in that regard. And then maybe there gets a little bit of readjusting with I don't know, is the Pinnacle still a thing? Or is it just, are they just not together? What, I don't know what's going on there.
That's what's making me wonder. It feels like they're kind of phasing out. Dominic, Nick is saying, did Arn Anderson turn on Cody? No, I don't think so. I think it's more of like the tough love thing, where it's just like, you gotta buckle down.
He's airing it out to the public. This is that's what sometimes you got to do that when you're the coach. You got to put your man out there and say, hey, listen, you got to do it. He's got to make these changes.
Steven with a question that I think you tried to pose last week, and then we had to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Where's Jake Roberts? How come he's not with Lance Archer anymore?
I don't know. I think Lance Archer kind of bounces around. And, obviously I want something a little more consistent for him. and like a direction for him. I think him tagging with Suzuki makes sense because they have the New Japan ties and the history together. So makes sense. But
and I don't think that he needs Jake Roberts to be his mouthpiece.
I don't think so. I mean, even that's like, I really liked the interaction between him, Eddie, and Mox with Mark Henry in the middle of all that, and like them just kind of basically yelling at each other. And Eddie's like, "We don't need to talk. Let's not talk." And like Archer's like, he's like, "I'm gonna stick my foot up your fat ass," and like saying all this. It was good, like organic kind of like back and forth for like having two screens. It's like, Lance does not, like, him and Jake were a good pairing to start off. Like, I think they matched really well, and I like how they introduced them both together like that, like in that backyard weird ass like Justified, kind of vibe to it. But then I think Jake's got they compare Jake with somebody else that really needs somebody, like very specifically a heel, like a sleazy, dirty motherfucking heel. Like, you want something like that, I think, with Jake.
Dom, Nesha's saying she saw that Jake was in a wheelchair and on oxygen now. Have you seen anything like that?
I have not seen anything like that.
I hope it's not. I hope it's not the case. I like Jake. I know he's a smoker. So maybe he just needs some oxygen or something. Maybe he's got like some emphysema. But I certainly hope that's not the case. Hope he's doing well. I've been a Jake fan since I was a kid.
Yeah, he's been your boy for a long time.
Yeah, really like Jake. So hope he's all right.
I hope he is too. I'm sure he is. Like, maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, Nesha, I didn't see or hear anything about that. And I also did not hear about Bray showing up on Wednesday. I don't think he can still, right?
No, I think legally he still can't. The 90 days isn't up, so he's probably going to be stuck for at least a little bit longer. But it does feel like a foregone conclusion that he will be coming.
Yeah. DJ says, Cody said in an interview he would never turn heel.
Wait, isn't that
what a heel would say?
I was just gonna say, just to counter that, like, what else is it somebody gonna say before they turn heel?
Yeah,
so it's a wrestling business, wrestling. So, I imagine that eventually he'll turn heel, but who knows? Because I like him as a babyface. I've been saying for a while now, like, I see him as the top babyface in the company in perpetuity. Because I think he's tremendous in that role.
Well, I think too, though, you have a lot of baby faces. Obviously, right now, like, look at all the babies. You got Bryan Danielson, you got CM Punk, you have Darby Allin, you have John Moxley. I think you're pretty good on baby faces right now. So.
Well, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of ways to swing it. If I had the book, Dom, if I had the pencil in AEW, I'd be doing that Miro thing where keep him strong and eventually have him win the belt and forfeit the TNT title for a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But then who better to eventually unseat him than Cody Rhodes, who has given up his rights to the world championship? Maybe we do some kind of fuckery where he gets out of that situation, and then Cody Rhodes is the flag bearer of the company, which in all honesty, he needs to be at some point.
I think he will do that, but as a heel, because wouldn't it just make sense to go back on your word and go make a challenge for the title, and then, hey, he's a heel doing it, so that's like you can't trust him.
That fucking works too. I gotta say, it's good. Where he's just like, I know I said I wouldn't, but I'm going to.
Yeah. Steven asks, any word on a Go-Go? I'd like to see him come back. I think he just had the eye surgery, so he's just on the shelf for a while.
I really like a Go-Go though. Man, he was like the perfect counter to Cody Rhodes when they had their feud going on. That felt like very Rocky Apollo Creed to me.
Yes.
I think Cody's just watching a lot of Rocky movies.
Yeah, Rocky's great.
Who doesn't like Rocky?
Who doesn't like Rocky? If you don't like Rocky, I'd have to say you're not American.
Fair enough. All right, Dominic, let's get back to the event itself here. FTR versus Sting and Darby Allin. FTR coming out in some sweet gear, NWO gear. That was pretty great. I'll tell you what, best gear in the biz. First the tribute Bobby Eaton gear, now NWO stuff. Which, by the way, I mean, they're wrestling Sting, so like, how much better does that get?
Yeah,
where they're coming out wearing like the gear of his greatest rivals.
Yes, it was a very nice touch. Very nice touch. It was a great match too. It was, Sting, man, he was really going, was he not? Like, it was impressive for 61, 62.
Flying crossbody. He looked
Yeah.
like $1 million out there, still working really well. I said it last week. I'll say it again. I now want to see Sting in a singles match.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you had to pair him, put him with one person. He can only have one singles match in all of AAW, like one match. Who are you putting him with?
That's not an easy question.
I know it's not. That's why I asked it.
I think I would be between two people. One would be Miro, just because you know how I feel about Miro, but also I think that it could like kind of raise the stakes for his character, where it's just like, hey, Sting has come back and he's just been a house of fire since he returned. Like, hey, can Miro get over this veteran? The other one, and this is kind of a curveball, Darby Allin.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. I think I'd want to see him go against Kenny.
I wouldn't hate it. I honestly,
I wouldn't hate Sting really against anybody, but like, I think Kenny would just be really good. Like him and Sting. It's just that's like a match that you would have to put in a video game. Like
an interesting clash of styles, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah. And Kenny can work and like can move and create movement for Sting. And I think it'd be pretty darn cool. Obviously, like seeing him against anybody like a Punk or
that's what Steven Chambers just said. Dom, Sting versus CM Punk. I mean, that would be a lot of fun too. Yeah. But I was kind of trying to think of like some. I guess to call Miro a homegrown talent for AEW isn't really genuine. But I think that the way he's established himself in AEW has made him kind of homegrown.
Well, like Marcus, did you see on Twitter, like Ricky Starks was like, hey, I am AEW homegrown talent.
He is. Yeah. He is. I would consider him AEW homegrown. Who else would I put in that category? Britt Baker. I would put Jungle Boy in that category, but Jungle Boy worked elsewhere.
Darby. You'd put Darby in there.
Darby, for sure.
Orange Cassidy.
No question about it. Powerhouse Hobbs. It's everybody worked somewhere before. It's like you would probably consider DDP a homegrown WCW talent. Well, DDP was an AWA.
Yeah.
Right. So it's it's essentially wherever you get over the most is where you're homegrown, in my opinion.
And this might ruffle a few feathers here, but Hulk Hogan wasn't homegrown WWE talent. He was AWA.
Yes, he was.
Ran wild in AWA first.
Yes, it did. That's kind of where he established himself. I believe he was working for Vern whenever he did the Thunder Lips bit in Rocky, Dom.
In Rocky, it's all tying together. And I was in Rocky.
Dom was in the movie Creed. You can see him as a ringside cameraman.
I'm like right behind Sly taking pictures. And when Michael B. Jordan's hits the canvas and his ass is up in the air, my head's right by his ass taking pictures.
Right by his ass. Dominic, let's talk about the main event of Rampage, and I think this is going to be our last subject because we covered. Well, no, we got to talk about Mox.
We got a few more here.
But let's talk about Britt Baker and Ruby Soho. Dom, this was one of those matches where I'm like, who wins?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what makes it a great match.
Yeah,
because who do you put over? This new super hot talent, or the new, or rather the new champion, who's also a really hot talent in the business right now? So it's again, this is one of those matches where it's like, hey, flip a coin. I don't know who wins this one, but Britt Baker pulls out the win, and it kind of the right move, I think. To me, the right move.
I think so. Like, I think it was the right move. Either way. Again, this is a kind of thing either way. What I kind of scratched my head about, should Ruby have submitted?
Probably not. I would say probably not. But that being said, she got this devastating lock on Ruby by unfair means. So I think that's kind of like the out where it's like, hey, look, anybody is getting stretched while also having fingers put in their mouth to depress under their tongue. I would probably say, okay, I want this to stop. So they would take the steps necessary to make that stop happening.
Yeah.
Huh?
Certainly does not feel comfortable.
No, I would take the steps necessary to make that stop. But
and you know what? Like I thought about that more too afterwards, like the next day and stuff like that. And I was like, Tony Khan's really in about having clear-cut winners and losers. Like, you never see a DQ finish. And I think it's maybe more so leaning into the side of, presenting more of a sports feel where like, hey, UFC, you either get knocked out or you submit. Like that's how you basically win. So I mean, like, I think maybe if I could interview Tony Khan at one point, this would be one of the questions I'd ask him is like, is having like the submissions and people giving up, or do you kind of want to dispel that notion of like, hey, this guy quit or this woman quit, like the quit aspect where it's like, that's just the name of the game. That's the name of the sport is like, submission's part of it.
I mean, you look at UFC, how many uber talented fighters have like had to submit at some time or another to avoid getting
just fucking set.
Right. To like if you're about to have your elbow hyperextended, wouldn't you rather like just say, "Hey, I'm gonna live to fight another day," and just tap out? I don't see anything wrong with it either. I mean, you see it in football all the time too, where it's like a really good team just takes a loss, and
your Cowboys quit all the time.
They don't quit; they just take a loss. So it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say something to me about your Jets, Dom, but I'm not gonna.
Pretty easy to.
I'm not gonna sink to your level.
That's just that. I mean, it's open game there, man. Open season for the Jets.
Just not gonna do it.
Good golly,
Dominic, let's talk about Mox and friend of the show Eddie Kingston taking
Marcus, on. What's the rival's name? Can you say his full name? Please?
Minoru Suzuki.
There you go. I was curious.
Mm-hmm. Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer.
Yes, and Homicide, another.
Yeah, how about that? Running from Homicide.
Mm-hmm.
I like seeing
watching Homicide wrestle in Johnstown, PA at a TNA show. Who did he face? You remember that? It was like one of the highlight matches of the evening, I think. It was Homicide fighting somebody.
To be honest, the match I remember the most was Bryan, Christopher Danielson, or Christopher Daniels rather.
Yeah, and he fought AJ, right?
I thought he fought Rhino.
Oh man, I'm trying to think. That was a great show, though. There was a lot of good. It was a big name show.
It was. Mick Foley was present, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we went to another one where we had really close seats, and in the main event, it was Kurt Angle tagging with AJ Styles against the Dudley Boys.
That's pretty awesome.
Which was a pretty great one to see.
Was that the one in Johnstown, PA?
Yeah.
Oh man, Oh yeah, me and you went to one show, and it was me, you, our buddy Doug, and our brother Luke. Who we gotta get.
I'll tell you this: nobody in this chat gives a fuck about this.
Nobody gives flying shits about this.
So Dominic, let's talk about Minoru Suzuki tagging with Lance Archer against friend of the show Eddie Kingston, and none other Dominic than John Moxley.
Sorry, what are you doing?
I was losing my train of thought.
I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you building this up?
I was focusing on a few other things at the same time. It
was very confusing.
So yeah, let's talk about it. Dom, what do you think?
It was okay. I think, I like Eddie. I love everybody in it. And like, I love the when Eddie's like chopping Minoru Suzuki and Minoru just stops and laughs like a fucking madman, and then they go back and forth. So there's a lot of neat aspects about it. From like, I guess what it was like, the lights out aspect of it didn't really feel lights out, did it? Not that I really wanted something to the effect of like, what we were getting with the blood and guts kind of thing, and what we've had with some of the Mox matches already. I think we've had our fill of that, like, Nick Gage and Jericho. We didn't need that to something to that level or anything to that. But, I liked everybody in it. I liked the moments that they got to do and pull off. So like, I think an okay way to close out the show, especially because Eddie's the hometown guy in New York and he gets the win and everything like that. So, I'm curious what's next. I'm always that's kind of the big intriguing thing is like, hey, what's next with in the programs with all these people is what I think is the most intriguing aspect. What did you think of the match?
It was what you would have expected it to be, right? Stiff, a lot of brawling. Mm-hmm. Steven Chambers points out that Kingston beat the dog shit out of Archer with that kendo stick.
Yeah.
Nesh's daughter, big fan of Nick Gage, by the way.
Really?
She wants to see Nick Gage come back, Dom. I don't know I don't know that he's going to make another run in.
I think that one-off is all you
Domino's
really need.
incident.
Like he's all GCW, baby. He's like there. Did you see what match they're having at GCW, Marcus?
I've seen a couple.
It's John Moxley, who's the champ, the GCW champ at the moment, and then you have Matt Cardona and Nick Gage. It's a fatal 3-way.
Tell you what, I would wear protective eyewear during that match.
Mark, I don't know if I could go to a GCW show like that. At least
I wouldn't be interested in having blood splashed on me.
Blood, I would not care. If that sounds weird, I know. I would be more concerned with like light tube dust. Pee would not be nice. Imagine if you had a wrestler like a GCW wrestler to just like piss on somebody.
Honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. If they could somehow get past the whole like exposing yourself in public, like if he could have like some sort of like a tube or whatever, the pee
catheter. Or fucking like comes out with a cup of piss.
There you go. There's your loophole.
Boy, what an experience that would be. Full-blown experience of a GCW show. Light tube dust, breathe it in. A cup of piss thrown in your face, and then just a little bit of blood under the cheek.
GCW, babe.
You gotta take a girl there. I tell you what, you want to woo a lady, take her to a GCW show.
Honestly, I watched the Nick Gage Dark Side of the Ring, and
I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, so I saw it, and it was fascinating. Crazy story. Guys lived a pretty wild life, but I see these fans like out in a field during the one where he got injured really badly and he nearly bled to death. It's like these fans out in a field, and it's like these guys are just covered in blood, and I'm like, I have no interest in seeing that happen. I just don't want to see it.
It's like it's like a niche of a niche, because it's like wrestling, and then it's like an independent wrestling, and then it's deathmatch wrestling.
By the way, I'm not saying it's bad. Like I don't think that it's a bad thing for wrestling to have death matches, but for my personal taste, the way that AEW did it, where all of a sudden it's like it increases the stakes by like a huge leap to say like, hey, by the way, Chris, you've got to take on the king of the death match. Then all of a sudden I'm like, well, now I want to see what happens, because he shouldn't be put in that position, and it's scary.
It's Chris fucking Jericho, and he's going against Nick fucking Gage.
Right. So there, I'm like, hey, I see value in it. But like every single match of your life is like, might get seriously injured. I'm gonna go out here and throw myself through a pane of glass or whatever.
Or get those fucking acupuncture sticks shoved in your forehead.
Yeah, nope.
No. But the death match of all death matches, Marcus, I talked about it to you off the air, was FMW, which is going to have a Dark Side of the Ring about it. 1994 in Japan, Terry Funk versus Onita. Holy fucking shit. You want to see a great story told and like stakes? My goodness. Exploding barbed wire time bomb death match. You got to watch it. It's on YouTube. Fucking take 30 minutes out of your time and watch that match if you have not seen it. Marcus, I told you like 12 moves were executed throughout that whole match, but a story was fucking told, and a damn good one at that.
That's really what it's about. And we got a story with Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho. It makes sense for storylines. Yeah. But as far as like doing it every single match, it's like, man, I would burn out like if I'm at a GCW show and the first match is like there's just like a bucket of blood in the ring, I'd be like, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out, dude. I don't want to do this for like another 2 fucking hours or whatever.
Bring out Doink.
Dominic, DJ, random question for feedback here. Sure. Do you think that AEW should use the TNT as a way to cash in an automatic world title shot and do the same thing by making a TNT title for the women so that they can cash in the belt for a women's title shot?
Why don't you bring that up, DJ? Because the news this week was they are going to introduce a TBS title for the women's division.
That's awesome. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, no, that was on my topic list that you did not have on here. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I think that that's a good idea. I think that the women's division deserves it, especially because they're so incredibly strong. I want to see more women's matches. We see on average, I think it's 1 per Dynamite, 1 per Rampage.
It's like one women's match, and then maybe like a storyline like that, because we got Thunder Rosa talking trash, which was cool, talking trash to Jade Cargill, and who was it? Nyla Rose as well? Was she
Nyla
there?
Rose? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a fun like apparent 3-way feud. But yeah, I like the idea of having a TBS title for the women.
That's gonna be a good looking belt too.
What's that?
That's gonna be a good looking belt too, with that new TBS logo.
Oh, no question. No question. As far as like using it as a cash-in, I think I think it should be a completely separate entity. Like as you said, Dominic, it's almost like the Intercontinental belt, where it's like I like the idea of having a separate entity that people are still vying for. Like Miro is not shooting to be the world heavyweight champion right now. He's just happy being the TNT title. Or rather being the TNT champion. So like, I think that's a cool thing where it's like, hey, I know that everybody wants a world title belt, but I'm really glad that I have this belt. So I like that aspect. But that being said, I like the idea of like, they should almost do like a King of the Ring. The Money in the Bank briefcase, that would be very on the nose.
But geez, I mean, this is also in the news. I didn't even I should have put this on. Owen Hart getting the ties.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a huge one to talk about.
And Marcus, they're going to have an Owen Hart tournament. Like that's what's happening.
I mean, how much better does it get than that? Owen Hart was the King of the Ring in the past. Make that Owen Hart tournament the King of the Ring tournament for AEW. Man, it doesn't get much better than that.
King of Hearts tournament. I wonder if they could use King of Hearts. I wonder if that's not.
I don't know if it's trademarked or not.
Yeah,
but I mean, either way, it's such a cool idea that I think that they could really make it work. And again, it's like tournaments to me. I love tournaments. I know that Vince McMahon, I think, famously has said that he hates them or something, but I think they're really cool.
I love tournaments too.
Yeah, they just like add stakes, and it's like this single elimination, like, hey, do or die. Every match is a super important match for you to get to this ultimate goal. I don't know. To me, it's cool.
There's nothing more presenting a sports-like field than having a tournament. No, DJ makes a point too, and I was going to say this as well. Is like it's basically what Josh Alexander it is what Josh Alexander just did on Impact. Was he relinquished the X Division title to challenge Christian Cage, and they call it in Impact Wrestling Option C. That's like utilizing Option C is that, and so that's the story that's being presented there. I think the TNT. I mean, the X Division title's its own thing, and everybody's like, hey, what's the X Division title actually? Like, what is it? How do you define it, basically? And like, there's not really ever been like a true blue definition of the X Division title. Now with the TNT title, it's like created its own identity and established itself. Like, I think if you were to kind of do that, it would be all right in a way, but it would also, I don't know, it would kind of not devalue it, but it would kind of make it feel a little bit like not as important as it should be.
Right, where it's like it's a tool to get to the World Heavyweight Championship, as opposed to like being something that's desirable in and of itself. Yeah. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm at on it. But that being said, I think that they need something like that. To DJ's point, I think that they do need something like that, and to me, it's the King of Hearts tournament.
Yeah, that'd be pretty damn.
And man, let me just say too, it was so good to see Owen Hart being represented in pro wrestling again.
By Martha's Choice, like it's not.
Yep.
Yep.
Such an incredible talent, and it's about paying homage to this man who is like such an important figure in pro wrestling. I couldn't be more pleased to see that they're doing that. Owen Hart is, in my opinion, probably the most talented of his family, and certainly that would make him one of the most talented of his era.
Yeah, I mean, if you're putting him up there with like Brett, it's just like, oh, and like he should, like it should be 1 and 2 right there, So
yeah, and no disrespect to Brett, I think that Brett is an unbelievable worker, but that just tells you how highly I feel about Owen and his skills. Honestly, go back and watch him. I don't know that when I was a kid I appreciated him enough, but as I've watched his stuff back as an adult, it's like, what a technician! Like,
I still want to go and watch
worker.
his stuff in Japan where he's wrestling like Liger and stuff like that, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I've never seen those matches either, but I'd love to because unbelievable worker.
Mark, and like, I mean, from a fan kind of aspect too, like wrestling figures are going to get made of Owen Hart. He's going to be in video games. How crazy is that?
It's wild to think about. I think the last game that he was on was WWE Raw in 1994.
Well, no, because he was on like Attitude.
Oh, that's right. He was
on the Attitude games.
That's right. But I mean, either way, no matter how you slice it, it's been a long time since Owen Hart was represented on a video game. Been a long time since he was represented as an action figure on licensed T-shirts. So it just opens up the door for some really cool opportunities, and more than that, it opens up the door to pay respect to this guy who should never be forgotten in pro wrestling.
Yeah, Steven says, shame on WWE. They should have did this years ago. Well, I don't think that was necessarily WWE's choice to do either thing because it's Martha. Like Martha does not want anything to do with WWE, and it was very contentious, obviously, and like really caused a wedge within the Hart family, like the dealings with WWE and stuff, and like sides were divided, and it was a really bad, sad situation. And so, Martha just did not want anything to do with it. So, this like for an outside company that's big in name, and it's kind of away from that time where Owen passed and everything, so it's not even like a WCW, it's its own thing. It's like, hey, they're paying homage to all these like legendary wrestlers. Like you've had Dory Funk come and visit, you've had all these different names get paid respect throughout it, throughout AEW's like short legacy in history, and even Brett. So, I think that makes it a lot more sense for Martha to be like, hey, yeah, they're coming from a good place. She probably sees the excitement that Tony Khan has for the business in general, and how they've handled everything. Like Punk mentioning and Bryan Danielson mentioning how they handled the whole Brody Lee situation. I mean, that was probably, I don't know if she knew stuff about that, or maybe she saw it and was just like, this is a good company, and I don't mind having Owen's legacy be associated with them. So yeah, it's neat to see. I'm excited.
It's a really, really exciting prospect. Wrestling, I said it at the top of this program, I'll say it again. Wrestling, I feel like is starting to get whipped into a fever pitch, and it has everything to do with Tony Khan and AEW.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, dude. It's been it's good shit right now. Marcus, I know I talked briefly about it last week too. NXT is kind of intriguing.
Honestly, that's kind of the new. It would be a way for WWE to work right now, is to lean into that like corny new generation thing. Because aside from that, go back to being a PG to PG-13 program. Those are the only options as of right now.
Well, we're kind of getting from what it reports are. I think Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful mentioned that the report is that NXT is supposed to get edgier, but per Vince McMahon. So I mean,
what are we talking about here? They're like 90s Nickelodeon, but they're also going
to So it's like, and more. Well, I have a feature coming up this coming week on WrestleZone.com where I pretty much talk about this. Yeah, so be on the lookout for that, folks.
Be on the lookout.
We'll leave you at that tease with that. Marcus, what else did we want to mention? We got to mention this aspect too here. America's Top Team, Men of the Year. Had a lot of MMA guys. Paige Van Zandt, a huge name in MMA. Mixing it up with Jericho and Hager. What'd you think of that whole interaction? I liked Men of the Year getting the win. I think that needed to happen. And I'm kind of digging it, man. I'm kind of digging it.
It's okay. It's I don't know that it's really like turning the dials for me as much, but at the same time, so you've got a really strong program right now. I don't think that it hurts anything to have that kind of a rub from MMA, to have, of course, Chris Jericho out there, and Jake Hager, who I think highly of. So I don't think that it hurts. And certainly Ethan Page, a friend of the show, Eddie Kingston, said that he's a rising star. You and I both love Scorpio Sky. So like having all those guys in the mix it will never hurt your program.
No. And like having a name like Jorge Masvidal, like give that badass knee to Jericho was pretty damn cool. And I really liked it too. I just tweeted this out as like, if you watched, you could see Ethan Page tell Jorge, "Hey, the hard cam, look over there." Like it was like, and you could see like Jorge turn and be like, "Hey," it was pretty funny.
The tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade. You got to know it, man.
Dom, are we ready to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, let's take a couple things. Okay, here's a couple stuff. Marcus, did you watch Chris Kanyon Dark Side of the Ring?
I didn't get to. Actually, I might be watching it tonight. If not tonight, then certainly tomorrow. I'm anxious to see it. You know that I feel very highly about Chris Kanyon. I think that he's another one, much like Owen Hart, where when I was a kid, I don't think that I really appreciated him. But as I've gone back to watch him as an adult, you want to talk about like silky smooth wrestling ability. He was that and more. DJ has said it. Who better than Kanyon? Honestly, around that period of time, maybe nobody. The guy was an innovator of incredible moves. I was on Twitter the other day, and somebody posted a highlight of innovative moves that Chris Kanyon invented and pulled off in the ring, and it's like it's outdoing a lot of the crazy spectacle kind of stuff that you're seeing today in pro wrestling. Just really innovative, cool offense, and you can tell that he's taking good care of his opponent. Like he's very safe, even though it's like these moves look absolutely devastating. But like you can see him like kind of hooking his arm underneath their head to protect their head from bouncing off the mat and stuff. Just like next level kind of thinking, way ahead of his time. If Chris Kanyon, like let's say 1998, Chris Kanyon was in pro wrestling right now, he would be the biggest star in pro wrestling.
He'd be feuding with Malachi Black. He'd be feuding with Cody.
He honestly, it would be hard to justify not putting the AEW championship on him if he was in pro wrestling today, because like he is that damn good. So what a tragic story about him. Just saw a thing with Father James Mitchell where basically Kanyon told him that he was planning on leaving the world soon, and Father James was trying to talk him out of it, where he was saying like, hey, you know, you mean too much. And Kanyon essentially said like, you were coming from a place of selfishness to say like, me being here for you and remaining miserable means more to you than me getting what I want. And so it's like, it's just a really such a hard thing to come to terms with. It is Chris Kanyon's story, but man, what a great person, great worker. I keep seeing interviews with him, and he just seems like a genuine, kind, nice person. So between that and his skills, I'm a big Chris Kanyon guy. Rest in peace. I'm excited to see this episode, but I'm also a big piece of me is dreading it because I know I'm going to get sad.
I'm about halfway through it. I haven't watched all of it yet, but it's what a layered individual he is. Like there's so much that goes behind what we saw, the Mortis mask, you know, and it's like, man, yeah, you're right. Like it's just like star potential out the wazoo too. And it's just like for him to kind of at that time, late 90s, like you know, homosexuality had such a completely different tone, and like people took it a different way, and it was all handled differently and like
horribly.
And like not only that, you had that aspect, but you had mental health too, and the stigma that came with that at that time, and the unknowns that go with that, where like nowadays that stuff's like embraced and rightfully so, and like people like, you know, are able to, you know, not only like show that, but like embrace having mental health issues and things like that. And Kanyon was dealing with a lot of that stuff, and like Catholic guilt, all that thing he was dealing with. And I'm only halfway through the show, but like to see him be in that time in a business with wrestling where it's like, yeah, there's that machismo kind of attitude where you don't want to show anything. And like, if you're closeted homosexual and you're not like, and that's a fear of yours is thinking that it's going to completely destroy you and who you are as a wrestler, then you know, it's a really tough thing to deal with, plus mental health on top of it. You know, not a good time for any of that. And I really feel for Kanyon, and like it is sad to think about. And yeah, it's just like, man, Kanan was awesome. He was awesome, and you could see how much, because the Bucks are in there talking about how much they mean to him. Brian Cage talks about it. Raf Mohardy, like who, like I've got to know, like it was childhood friends with Kanan. James Mitchell is great in it too. Like you'll like what you see, Marcus. Like for what it is, obviously you'll like what you see. And man, Marcus, like this sounds like selfish, but I think too, like what you were doing with Rewritten, like WCW Rewritten, and how you're incorporating Kanan on there, like it was the best part of I think the whole series. So at this point, I know it's on a hiatus now, but it's just like that was the best part of the whole thing was what you were doing with Kanan, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable giving this much away. He had a big run ahead of him, and bear in mind what I just said about Canyon and how with like the start potential he had. Like we're talking a big run ahead of Canyon on WCW Rewritten. I hope to be able to bring it back, but right now, Dominic, with the work I'm doing,
too much right now. I get it.
I'm so busy.
But it's good shit, pal. It's good shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep the pin in Rewritten for the moment. But yeah, so rest in peace, Kanan. Again, as Steven brought her up, rest in peace, Daphne. Such a two really bright lights in not just the world of wrestling, but in the world, gone too soon. So,
and there's Collar and Elbow has a T-shirt available for Daphne if you would like to help with her family and stuff like that. All the proceeds, Al Snow's company, and he does a really good job with making cool T-shirts and ones that fit great and everything like that. And making sure that all that money goes to the right place. And so you can, if you like Daphne and you miss her and you want to help out, that's one way to do it. And,
yeah, lend your support if you can.
Yes.
So Dominic, we took kind of a sad turn there at the end, but I think we had a really good episode of Two Dynamite Dudes on a Rampage.
Yeah.
You can follow me at Marcus P. DeAngelo. You can follow my slapdick brother who can't figure out his camera over there at Dominic DeAngelo. You can follow WrestleZone at WrestleZone.com, and you can follow Two Dynamite Dudes on a Rampage at 2 Dynamite Dudes. And Dominic, do you have anything else you want to give the old plug ski to?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, NXT article coming up this week, feature. I'm pretty excited for that one. I had a good time writing that one. So if you're a 90s kid, you'll like it. I did a transcription to credit to DHC Digital, I think are the initials. They did an interview with Mercedes Martinez, and this is their first interview that she did since being released from WWE. So women's talent that should be picked up by AEW is Mercedes Martinez. So she had a little stint there in AEW before she went over there, but to WWE. So give that a read. But as far as anything else, also Colin Tessier, the prodigy of WrestleZone.com, interviewed Shane Taylor, who I like a lot from ROH. So ROH is Colin's bag here at WrestleZone. So give that a watch and a listen, because it's both on podcast and both on video. So you can do that. As far as this, I always want to do this. Like this video if you're watching on YouTube. Give us subscribe to the WrestleZone YouTube channel. You get us kicking on here. And also, we have our own separate feed for Two Dynamite Dudes on a Rampage. Give that a subscription or whatever podcast feed of choice you go on, whether it's iTunes, whatever, Spotify. Write us a good review if it does on iTunes. Really appreciate that. Marcus, key aspect is our MVPs and your Marcus.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I did want to mention, do check out adfreeshows.com if you haven't yet. It's an incredible bargain for the amount of incredible, really cool, unique content that they have to offer over there. So go check it out. Get a subscription to adfreeshows.com. Guaranteed that you will not regret it. The feedback online is just unbelievable for the people who say, "Hey, I finally made the leap, and I hate that I waited so long to join the Ad Free Shows family." So go check that out. Dominic, DJ Cassier has asked, Jets getting their first win tomorrow. Who are they playing, Dom?
The Denver Broncos. That rivalry goes back a long ways for me because 1998 AFC Championship game. It was my Jets, where I became a Jets fan against those John Elway 98 Broncos, and we lost. So I always want them to beat the Broncos. I don't think they're going to happen, though.
No.
I don't think it is.
No, they will not win.
Marcus emphatically says that. Now, listen, I'm not as panic mode as mainstream media is about the Jets. I think they're playing a little bit better than what's being portrayed. Obviously, it's a fucking rookie team across the board, from a coach, from coordinators, from a quarterback. A lot of just a young team. So it's like, let's not hit the panic button here. It's a young team. Things will happen. Things will develop a little bit. I'm not too concerned.
Anyways, Dom, MVP, Bryan Danielson, rather. Got to be, right?
Has to be. Across the board, Marcus. It's got to be Bryan Danielson. Not beat Bryan Danielson this week.
No. Still showed that he's maybe the best worker in wrestling today. Is certainly one of the top workers in wrestling.
Hands down, Marcus. Like, you probably know this already, but like, favorite modern wrestler today is Bryan Danielson. He's in my top 5 of all time too. So it really says something.
With good reason. The dude's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the rating, Dom, I mean, they've been nailing it recently. When's the last time I gave a bad rating? It's been,
I think maybe a couple months.
Yeah, has to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, incredible job over there. Great storytelling, kind of tying all the pieces together nicely. Dominic, I'm giving it a solid 8.8 this week.
That is a grand slam right there for you.
Grand slam. Yep.
It's a grand slam. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else. No, Mark, it's a good show, man.
Absolutely. And this was a good show. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Really good chat with everybody. Nesha, DJ, Steven, all across the board. You guys are awesome. Love interacting with you. Feel free to shoot us messages over Twitter. We like to communicate with you guys. So by all means, feel free to reach out at any time. Nesha trashing my Cowboys, call them the Cowgirls.
Rightfully so.
They're going to win.
Nesha, your Saints don't look too good. Let's just say that your Saints don't look that good.
Oh, gee, Dom, I don't know that that's fair. I think the Jameis Winston looked like an absolute stud in week 1. Maybe not so great week 2.
Week 1.
Maybe not so great week 2, but who knows? Maybe he'll pull it back together.
Week 3 is going to tell the tale for a lot of teams, I think.
I think so. It'll tell you exactly where you stand. Mm-hmm. So big week in football, big week in wrestling, big week for you and me, Dom.
Why?
I don't know. It just felt like a good way to wrap this thing up. Anyway,
something I don't know.
Anyways, thank you guys for joining us, and catch us here next week, right here on 2 Dynamite Dudes on a Rampage. We'll catch you guys later.
See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.